First one out there on Oilers Live tonight, bud. Trust the process, play the system. Keep that play moving north.
Coming to you live on the Heavy Hockey Network. It's Mike and Dash with another Thursday night episode of Straight Off the Pipe. Off to you guys. Have fun.
Game on.
Game on. Let's go.
Hey, brother. It's episode 11. Welcome to it. We are coming to you straight off the pipe. We're live in our new home on the Heavy Hockey Network with our help from the good man Michael Hebert from Oilers Live. I am excited for episode 11. It's a bit of a new beginning. It's our Mark Messier episode. The guy in the box beside me is my co-host. I am Dash, also known as Dash in the Park, and that guy right there is the self-proclaimed lazy left winger center kind of guy. So he's basically the Dustin Penner of podcasting. Mike Dursa.
Hey ref, how can you give me a penalty because my stick broke? That's a fucking joke. You call that a penalty?
Go eat some pancakes.
You call that a penalty because my stick broke? How can you call? Anyways, it's the Mark.
Come talk to me at the IHOP.
It's the Mark Messier edition of Straight Off the Pipe.
Cheers, brother.
And if anybody's watched Boys on the Bus, they know exactly what I was just talking about. So some interesting things going down that I'm right fired up about. I mean, I can't stand this organization anymore. I got to say it. I'm like you. I'm pissed off. How can we go sign a defenseman for 2 years for under $1 million in that 7-hole? What are we doing?
To the oil blowout. Here we go.
What are we doing? What is going on? Slater Koekkoek? 2 years? What did he do to deserve 2 years? 2 years.
Sing into the choir. Preach, brother, preach.
I'm just, I'm so fired up over that. I can't even sleep at night. How are you supposed to carry on when we're signing guys like that for 2 years?
Ruin our team.
That's the end of it. I'm out of here.
The cup's gone.
Well, moving to Calgary and
no use driving the puck. Slater Koekkoek, 2 years. Who gives Slater Koekkoek 2 years? Wait, sorry. Wait, this is a reenactment of Twitter these days. My bad. Sorry. Maybe you should go eat a Snickers, Durst.
Yeah, the fake outrage over everything is starting to get a little overwhelming in August.
Poor Slater's gonna come to camp just feeling all beat up because he got a second year. Take a breath, buddy.
We had all the leverage.
all the clout on Slater Koekkoek. Why couldn't we just see what he did and re-sign him later?
I mean, if you weren't a fan,
another danger zone, eh?
If you weren't a fan of hockey, and this was like your first experience was today, and you learned about what was going on today after this signing of Slater, and you talk to somebody that was a fan of hockey, but not, the Edmonton Oilers and ask them, why are they upset? Could you answer it?
Yeah, I don't know. There's a cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs joke in there somewhere, buddy, but I don't know where to find it.
I see what you're getting at.
This is not how we expected to start the show. But, I hate surprises, but
we came out hot right out of the gate. Why not?
Yeah. Is it hot in here? There's just cell block 99.
Yeah. Speaking of cell block 99, I'm back in the kind of the old Stompin' Gretzky grounds, I guess you could say. It's not quite the same as it once was in the dungeon in the basement. I've moved upstairs, but we're back in action. I guess Michael's show on Tuesday there, he had Tess Bennett on, and Tessa's a long-time Detroit Red Wings fan turned Oilers fan turned Red Wings fan when they got Sam back. But she's followed Kenny Holland for quite some time, pretty closely. And I guess one of the things tonight, I guess, is feeding, going off of that lead and kind of putting our spin on that. I'll let you go first with what you think of kind of Ken Holland as this. This is probably the first off season that he's really got to put his stamp on the Edmonton Oilers. And we've seen Dave Tippett through a couple playoff runs. I'll let you go on what you think of both of them and that whole thing, and then I'll go with my kind of spin on what I think. But go ahead.
Dude, we've had like a 10 episode rant on Ken Holland. At the end of the day, we've been throwing high heat at his head, or at least I have. You said it, you nailed it. It's his first off season to really put his stamp on things, right? He inherited a lot of headaches from Tire Fire Pete, and as a result, had to fix some things. I remember his first press conference when he came in and said that the first thing to do is to get things fixed up a little bit, change the culture. Then we need to become a consistent playoff team. And then once we become a consistent playoff team, we need to start winning Stanley Cups, right? And I see that. I see the steps that are being taken from that. If those were his goals, well, we've made the playoffs the last 2 years. Okay, so I can't give him a failing grade. I think Ken Holland's got us to where we are to some extent. I think in the whole package of riding Connor and Leon a little bit and some of that comes along with it. But being this the first time to put his stamp on it, I don't love the stamp he chose. We've talked about that. I think that, choosing guys like Keith and CC and some of this paying top dollar for intangible and really being careless and a little bit knee-jerk with some of his planning in the cap is not how I thought this was going to come. Let's drop the buck and find out, and we'll go from there. I think he's making a lot of decisions based on influence from Dave Tippett. The more I hear Oilers Live talk about that, the more I kind of believe it and look into it. And I really think that they're just kind of making two-man decisions, and maybe right from the start had that plan. I heard Dave Tippett on a podcast with Pierre Lebrun, and it was right after the Winnipeg series. So it's actually interesting to go back and listen to it kind of, with 2020 vision, knowing what happened in the playoffs. And, it was along with his predictions of how that next series was going to go with Montreal and Winnipeg. And, he had kind of almost talked like he just got run over by God, like this is Winnipeg's going all the way. What a great job by Paul Maurice and Connor Hellebuck. And he kept talking about kind of referring back to when he was in his position at Seattle, right? He was his player personnel and management and for the Kraken before the Oilers hired him. And I almost wonder now, seeing how a lot of this has happened, if this just hasn't been a management by committee between those two, and they just kind of wear whatever name tag they want for coach and GM as a bit of a courtesy.
So I kind of look at, Holland right now. I think he's done just about everything he would want to do to this team other than change the goaltending, which I think should have been priority number one. And it wasn't. But I think he's done just about everything, a GM would want to do to a team in an offseason. I mean, it was an active offseason. Nobody can criticize and say he didn't do anything. He did a lot. You can be critical of the moves. I think it's, pretty early in the day to evaluate that because you don't know until they get on the ice. But so he's put a stamp on this team. They say usually a GM gets two coaches. Dave Tippett is number one. If he cans him, I think he's got one more coach before he's shown the door. Hopefully that doesn't happen, because if we're on to coach number two under Ken Holland and that doesn't pan out, I think that spells the end of Connor McDavid in Edmonton potentially. And that kind of idea before winning a Stanley Cup scares the shit out of me, but it could be a reality. And I don't want to be all doom and gloom because that's not how I roll. But the way I see it with Tippett is he's had two playoff appearances where basically he was in the driver's seat. He wasn't the underdog in either series, I wouldn't think, especially against Chicago. And that didn't work out. And against Winnipeg here, I think, you probably heard it on the radio if you listen to 1260, or even Stauffer will tell you that's, they're probably the closest sweep of a series that you've ever seen in your life in hockey. Every game was close. And, to Tippett's defense, although I don't want to do it because I don't think he's really earned it. I think Winnipeg does get a little bit further if Mark Scheifele doesn't get suspended in the second, in their second series. But I mean, we'll never know the answer to that because he did get suspended and they lost. So Hallebuck was on another level. I'll give him that. And I think Winnipeg had more depth than us, but you're taking those games to overtime with the offensive weaponry that Edmonton has. You got to find a way to win one of those games, at least one. You had 3 chances at it. So, I mean, we can be critical of Mike Smith, and I have been thinking that he's not quite the guy to get us past a really clutch goaltender. But in a triple overtime game, you definitely had your chances to get one, and you didn't. So I start to come into question with the tactical part of the game. A good coach needs to be able to motivate players, but a good coach also needs to figure out the X and O's. Players at the professional level, especially when it comes to playoff time, better be motivated when that puck drops. It shouldn't rely too heavily on the coach to motivate players. I don't think so. I think the coach's job come playoff time is more to do with strategy and tactical, precision than anything. And he just had 2 chances and really hasn't got it done. So I kind of look at it almost like baseball, like 3 strikes and you're out. So one more season, and if you limp out of the playoffs again without really getting any damage done at all, I think that looks heavily on you. Especially when you have the weapons that we have on this team. I mean, we have the ultimate assassins in Connor and Leon. So yeah, you got to find a way to win games and win series and save the excuses, because I'm not interested in them anymore.
Yeah, we're out of excuses. There's no doubt about that. As much as I hate to say it, I agree with a lot of what you said. The part about every GM generally getting 2 coaches, it's a pretty general hockey rule of thumb hockey rule that whether it comes to fruition here or not, I don't know, to be honest. I think the only way that happens is if we get swept out of the first round again, and then Holland's just left with no choice. I do really think they've come at this as a 2-person committee, and I think they'll live by their sword and die by their sword. I think it would be pretty rich of Ken Holland to have made some of the decisions he's made. Letting a guy like Caleb Jones and Ethan Bear go, Tippett proved he couldn't fully trust, and re-signing guys like Barry and then signing Keith and getting those veteran type of players that Dave Tippett would rather coach, right? So whether that happens, I don't know. The Smith thing, I beat up on him more than you have. I would beat up on him for saying that he gets a lot of credit for a fantastic, outrageously great, amazing, almost Vezina season, when I think he had an easy road there. What I will not take away from Mike Smith for a second is how he performed in the playoffs. He didn't cost us that series. There's not a chance that Mike Smith cost us that series. It wasn't even close to being about goaltending, other than Connor Hellebuck played better. And that's not because Mike Smith played bad. I think the biggest, did you listen to Strudwick today? Did you hear on the end of the show when he had Peter DeBoer on?
I caught bits of Struddy today, but a lot was going on in my day.
It was a cool interview. DeBoer said at one time, and it actually really cued me for tonight, because he said, this is not verbatim, but I'll be 90% close. Outside of communication, the most important skill for an NHL coach was to figure out ways to stay relevant. And by staying relevant, it was by staying on top of trends and by doing your homework in the off season and figuring out the way that the NHL is changing so that you can adapt, And he went on to say that, every coach in the NHL got in, it started back in New Jersey, and then, Lamoriello and whoever else that went on and on and on and on with this, trap hockey where, the left wing lock and the 1-3-1. And I played it. It's been back so long, it's been around so long, but coaches also got really good at figuring out how to get past a trap. And what he said that the biggest trend he noticed in the last couple of years in the NHL is that the way to defend against those traps, offend against those traps, and to find ways to create opportunity was to push 4-man rushes. And so now you're rushing as a 4-man unit. And he said, quote unquote, that your puck moving defenseman becomes a second center. And that really made me think, like, and he went on to quote guys like, Makar and Quinn Hughes and Heiskanen that are Norris contenders and some of the most important people to their team because of the way that they can transport a puck and because of their first pass and because of the way that they can move with McKinnon, Rantanen, and Landeskog, and the way that Nurse or Barry can move with McDavid, Draisaitl, and that unit, right? So the bright side of that is I think Tippett recognizes it. The downside to it is I'm not sure that he's catching up enough. Maybe because you mentioned those 2 playoff years, and I'd like to break that down a little bit, but I want to kind of let you jump in and speak to what I've said there.
So I think what really will help the Edmonton Oilers going forward, and I hate to sound like I'm really defending Dave Tippett, but I think the additions that we got on forward are going to make a huge difference in that respect. Often it would be the fallback move of putting McDavid and Draisaitl together, right? Because you didn't have really enough wingers to get the job done. So you put Leon and Connor together, and great, you've got one line that's strong. And then what happens after that is a lot of nothing sandwiches. So the addition of Hyman and Fogle and just kind of that depth throughout the forwards, I think, is going to make a world of difference for the attack. Nurse and Barry are going to be the same as they've been, but I think there's just going to be, almost like good teams come at you in waves. It isn't just one line or 2 lines; it's 3, and then the 4th line pounds you into submission. And if you've got that, then you've got the potential to go on a long run. So adding to the forwards, I think, is going to mean more than kind of a little bit of an overhaul on the defense. But no, I agree with you. You remember going back, I think it was like the Flyers and the Sabres or something in one game, or maybe the New York Islanders, where one team was back in the trap, and I think it was the Flyers going to come out. And they didn't go anywhere. Like, they almost trapped the trap. And it was the stupidest thing ever. It was about a 45-second shift where the puck never came outside of the blue line because they saw like the whole team was back at the red line. So they just stayed back. Like I don't want to get
stick had like 30 seconds. My coach doesn't want me to break the system. If I transport this puck when I don't have pressure, I might be in trouble.
I don't want to get into that kind of hockey, but I get what you're saying. I'm reading some of this chat here, and
I can see them come up too. Most of them are chirping your facial hair by the most of it.
I see one that says, "What do they think of the Bear? What do we think of the Bear trade?" I think there's a lot to the Ethan Bear trade, and some of it we're never really gonna know. I think part of that might be on the Edmonton Oilers, and Dave Tippett. I know that, he really took it to Bear hard after, the turnover in that one Winnipeg game led to a goal and was not good. He sat him for 2 periods before he got him out there again. So definitely lost trust in the coach. Ethan had a hard year. I don't buy into this out of shape nonsense. I think that's a convenient ploy. Ethan worked with a personal trainer last summer and was in really good shape coming into camp. So I don't put any stock into any of that kind of stuff. I think that's really honestly a convenient bullshit excuse. I know he had a tough go last season, had a concussion. It affected him for a while. But I liked Ethan Bear as a person, first and foremost, and I liked him as a player. I thought he had a tough year last year, but the year before, him and Nurse were a really good pair. And I think there's more than we're ever going to know in that situation, and that's probably why it happened. People can blame whoever they want to blame. At the end of the day, he's a part of the Carolina Hurricanes, and Warren Fogel's a part of the Edmonton Oilers. I wish Ethan nothing but the best, and it's the same how I feel and how I felt about Caleb Jones when that went down. It does sadden me to see like a trend towards lots of talk about draft and develop, and all of a sudden that theory goes kind of up in smoke. I mean, both of those guys are defensemen that were later in the draft and turned out. Okay, they weren't your 1A 1B defenseman, but to write them off, that sucks. I mean, and that's sometimes the way it goes in the nature of the game. It's really going to be a black eye though if those guys 5-6 years down the line have a really promising career and we didn't get anything done with the acquisitions that we got in their place. That's when it will suck. If in the next 2 years, or say 3, if Keith sticks around, but in the next 2 years, if we go on a significant run, third round or Stanley Cup, I can live with it easily, but who knows?
I can keep my answer pretty simple on that. I think Ethan Bear was my second favorite Oiler. I'm heartbroken by it at the end of the day. I think he used character. I think he handled a really tough situation in a very mature way. Not only the benching, but also the racist comments that came at him through social media and his response to that. And every time I heard him speak, I heard an intelligent human being. I heard a kid that clearly had been through a lot and persevered. And I can look at this trade two ways: with my heart and I hate it, or in terms of asset management as a hockey fan. And Warren Fogel's a hell of a player, and he fills a hell of a need. And we got him at a good dollar. And he's a lot of everything and exactly what the Edmonton Oilers need right now. And I don't think this is one of those trades like the Keith and Caleb one where you look at it in 3 years and smack your forehead. I think you still look at it in 2 to 3 years and go, man, I'm glad we got Fogel, and good for Ethan for doing well in Carolina. And that's all I got to say about that. I miss Ethan, but I think we're going to love Warren.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to pass judgment on the organization, but there might have been an ask from the player on this one because he did go through a hellish experience.
I believe that to be true, Durst. I think the part you said about, being out of shape, it was true in 2 out of the 3 previous seasons. It's on record, but that doesn't mean last year that's what happened. And he was injury plagued last year, and there was rumors he was late coming into Edmonton this year and out of shape again. And I've actually dug, and I can't find anybody to prove that. There's some pretty unique language being used by some of the media, when they talk about it, and all I do is think it's a scapegoat for management. I really do. I think it's a kiss ass fucking move, to be honest, because really at the end of the day, it's proven to be not that. I do think Ethan wanted out. I think it would have been really hard. But you know what, man? I always think back to, like, we went all the way to provincial finals when I was in midget, and I took a double minor 4-minute penalty for spearing with 5 minutes left in the game, and we had a 2-goal lead. And I was just trying to dig the puck out from the crease. The goalie was covering the puck. I could see puck, so I went for it. And I got a spearing penalty, and probably because I didn't shut my mouth the whole freaking series before that. And I'm sure I deserved that from the ref. And they scored 2 power play goals while I sat in the box, and they won in overtime. And I'll never forget that moment. how does Ethan Bear walk back into an NHL dressing room with, his coach sitting there, benching him in one of the most important games that he's ever played in, putting a lot of pressure and blame that way. I think it's hard to face his coach. I think it's hard to face his teammates. And I wouldn't doubt for a second if he's secretly asked out. And if that's who we got in exchange and in a trade where we had to trade somebody, then good on Holland. I think that's great.
The Fogle thing almost makes me wonder if there wasn't like looking into that before, because we get him, he's not even played a game with us, and we re-sign him for what, 3 years, I think it was. Yeah. So they must have had an eye on him and wanted that kind of in their system. And so I guess maybe Ethan sort of gave him an opportunity to pursue that fully. And I'm sort of, in a sense, like this might be controversial, but when have we ever shied away from controversy? I'm almost glad that it was Warren Fogle instead of Jake DeBrusk, because, you go that route, and I've got nothing against Jake, but the fan base sure does. Anytime, the whole favoritism, the old boys club, well, all of that, so I'm glad they went after Fogle, because he doesn't, there's none of that with him. He's,
it would have put Adam Larson pressure on him, right? Because he'd have come into town already thinking, oh, frick, I'm here because my dad, and they gave up a fan favorite, and it was the whole racist indigenous time in our world that I come in and fill these shoes, and like it's this. Fogle's too consistent, man. He's gonna come in and just grind and drag guys along with him, including all of us fans, man. That guy drives a pickup truck, if you haven't heard.
He's a character guy.
He's a character guy.
Looking for character guys.
If he doesn't have testicles hanging from his hitch on the back of it, I'd be surprised. Like, that guy's he's what Albertans want, right? He's gonna probably be the next coming of Ryan Smith if he can get that type of career. He's that type of player. Edmonton's gonna love him. So that's my thoughts on Ethan Bear. I don't know. It still hurts a little, so it's tough to talk about. But like that, I'm still pissed about this Tippett conversation, to be honest.
The one thing I'll finish, like the last thing I'll say about Ethan Bear is it sort of saddens me in a sense, because in this summer we've lost Ethan Bear and Caleb Jones and Jujhar Khaira. So that was kind of a little bit of the diversity that was on this club. Yeah. And I, as an Oiler fan, I appreciated that. I love that. I mean, Grant Fuhr all the way, way back when, so that was something you could be proud of. Yeah, that's something you could be proud of as an Oiler fan, right? And not to say that like that was but we just lost a little bit of our diversity on our team. I mean, I have a Nurse jersey for a reason, because I'm proud that he's an Edmonton Oiler. For a lot of reasons, but that's part of it for sure.
No doubt about it. I'm going to transition back a little bit. I think this is a cool way to do it, since we're in the Mark Messier episode number 11 here, and the Moose comes from our suburb of St. Albert. I got a text in here from Clyde Cumbersbun in St. Albert, and he says, truthfully, I think Tippett relied too much on playing Connor and Leon together, and the rest of the lines became a self-made coaching issue when he put them together. I think Holland recognized that, and hence his push to get Hyman, as well as the speedy Fogle, to possibly slide up as well. That way, when Tip went Connor Leon, at least he has other lines capable of doing what he needs from them. And I like that, and it really highlights for me how terrible I think that Tippett is at line matching and line combinations. I think it's hurt us on several occasions. Maybe let me just start by saying I don't dislike Dave Tippett. I certainly would never say I hate him or anything like that. I think that's just an awful strong word, but I've lost faith, I think maybe were the words that Mr. Hebert used, and maybe I'll steal those because I've certainly got some doubt, and it comes from the history right recently behind this, right? And so, I talked about those goals that Holland had about getting to the playoffs more consistently, and great, we made it back-to-back years. How long has it been since we've done that? 89, 90? Yeah, 32 years since we've had to go back-to-back playoffs. That's fantastic. So goal accomplished. That said, we were the fourth team in the Western Conference, man. Like, we went up against the 12th seed Chicago, who had the youngest coach in the league. What's his name? Jeremy Colleton, and got out coached by the youngest coach in the NHL. His failure to continue to go with the Draisaitl, Nuge, Yamamoto line that was the best line in hockey for the second half of that season, and to put the lines in a complete blender with Athanasiou and it made no sense. Like, you don't, it's not a 7-game series. You have no time to develop chemistry. I don't understand why he was so stubborn on going away from what he did. And that's 2020's playoffs. You get into this year's regular season, and I hate how he didn't use Bouchard. I hate how he wouldn't trust Caleb Jones. I hate when he forced Barry to play with Nurse instead of Bear to play with Nurse, when it was so clearly obvious that Bear and Nurse were better together and their chemistry was better. I don't think Barry and Nurse ever really developed chemistry. They were chasing each other around like a tire fire for a lot of those shifts. And Nurse has the tendency to run around a bit already, and Barry has the tendency to get caught up. So, those two things start to happen together, and it's not great. So, then you take all of that. How long did he go this season again without even trying Hopkins, Dry, and Yamo together? And Yamo never got going. So, you carry that into our playoffs, and then he starts Cassian and Koekkoek in that first game, which I thought was, a little bit odd given we had some momentum and those guys hadn't played. I think our team went in overconfident, maybe rightfully so. We'd won 7 games against the Jets, but it took us 2 games to get slapped in the face and wake up. And then it took games 3 and 4 to be close. But he was benching Ryan McLeod the entire playoffs. I didn't think McLeod deserved half of those benchings. He's getting 10 minutes a game and less. And, in that triple OT, it wasn't just McLeod and Bear. He'd benched Koekkoek, he'd benched Chase on that game, and then Darnell Nurse plays 65 minutes. Well, and then what happens? On a tired play, Kyle Connor goes the other way, right? Like, I don't know. You said something that was, really, really key earlier. What did you say? I wrote it down because I didn't want to lose it. Closest series in the history of hockey. Do you think coaching was the difference?
I kind of think in that, you make one play, you drop one play. It's the difference of a hockey game. You drop one play that works, and you've got the 2 best offensive players in hockey.
Never mind drop a play. What if you call a timeout in game 3?
Right. Whatever. I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that, because I was thinking about this for a long time. It's like Oiler coaches are anti-timeout. We've had like 8 years where guys, when it's crunch time, and you can just, that's all. That's really, as a coach, when the game's going on and things are happening, if you want to intervene in that game, you call a timeout. That's all you have. Or you do the Glenn Gulletson and just start throwing water balls and sticks on the ice. I mean, that's another option, but that usually leads to a penalty. So call a fucking timeout. Like,
yeah.
And especially in games where you have a lead, or the other team is coming at you and they score 3 goals in 5 minutes, like, you don't have a lot of options. Use your fucking timeout. You can't store them.
Yeah, you keep them for next game. Like,
you get one a game, and that's all you get. You can't stockpile them, so use them.
Yeah, and playing Koskinen in that one game, and like, maybe he doesn't have choice, and just a lot of his lineup choices I found really odd. So I I think Paul Maurice is one of the best out there, and I think he outcoached him. I really do.
Against the Blackhawks, we got schooled in the faceoff dot. That's really what happened. How many pucks did the Blackhawks tip on the? Yeah. How many pucks did they tip on the way in that led to goals?
Yeah,
like it seemed like a million of them, but it was like one or two. It was one or two a game. So figure out a faceoff play. Like
keep Nuge forever. I love him. But he kept sending him out for those two. And Nuge was bad in that Chicago series, and he couldn't win it. Like that was when the right-handed faceoff and debate started, right?
Right.
We finally got one.
But how many lefties do we have that can take draws, and how many righties, and how long has that been an issue?
Yeah. Well, I think that's improved too. So, he's got more face-off help now. He doesn't have to send Draisaitl out for every important draw. And now we've got that third line right-handed center, or wherever Ryan ends up slotting in, if it's fourth line, whatever. He can go still take those draws, jump back over the boards, and have Dry hop on, or whatever they end up doing there, right? I think that helps. Now we've got guys from the right and the left that can win face-offs. Fogle and Hyman are going to be those motors. They're going to be those possession guys. They're going to drive up possession numbers. They're going to drive up our ability to cycle. They're going to drive up our ability to not just be a team that plays off the rush. We're a successful team off the rush, and that's great. And we've been successful that way. Try to think of every one of Darnell Nurse's goals in your head right now. Was any of them not like some wicked slap shot or wrist shot posting in straight off the pipe and in? Where he's coming in as the fourth man. That's what DeBoer made me think of. I'm like, yeah, man. Like Nurse came in and would off the pipe. So I think Tippett's recognizing it, or he and Holland together are recognizing what those weaknesses are. If you want to talk about those 4-man units, like Barry, Keith, Bouchard, Nurse, Broberg, Holland's drafting that way. Bouchard, Broberg.
Yeah.
There's clearly they're recognizing that this is a need, and something that, if that's what DeBoer has picked out as the biggest trend in hockey, well, then we have too. And maybe we do have one of the better puck moving units in the NHL and in our division, certainly. So, that's all sunshine and rainbows, but
you're not naming off a shutdown, stay at home, rock solid defenseman.
You took it off the tip of my tongue, and that's what Montreal did. So yeah, man, you're singing to the choir for sure. I think that's what we're still missing. And we did we get meaner and bigger? Sure. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, Fogle might wake up Cassian too. That might light a fire under him. If he sees a guy that's out there and smashing people and putting pucks in the net, the guy can shoot the puck. I'm excited to see him. I mean, the Bear trade is tough, and it's tough to see guys go and character people that you like leave. But as an Oiler fan, I mean, that we're just a few days past the anniversary of Wayne getting dealt, so there's not much. I don't think that especially guys our age that can't handle. I mean, we've seen it all. A little younger generation saw the crying Ryan, Smitty getting dealt, and and how hard that was, and so I don't think there's really anything that we can't persevere through. But each one's tough. It's a shitty part of the game that players are commodities, really. When it really comes down to it, they're commodities, and it's commodity exchange, and thinking you're going to get a better price on that tomato versus that corn and all of that. That's really what it comes down to, and it's the sad part of the game. But I appreciate the moments that you have with the players that you love. And nobody can ever take away the great moments or the great memories that you have of whatever player is your favorite, and cherish them and keep them forever. And don't sell your jersey when they get traded. There's his tips.
There's tips for sure.
Yeah,
I'm seeing a couple more texts coming in. One of them was from our overkeeper, Mr. Hebert. He said we're getting hits on every single platform, and there's lots of viewers, so we must be up to probably like 11 now, which would be coincidental for the Mark Messier episode. Um, Another one from one of the viewers and listeners was after our last episode, and it's Stefan from Stetler in again. He said, I do look forward to you guys on your discussions on the Oilers as well. Nurse is literally a top 5 D-man in the league, potentially a number 1 in the league for the rest of the contract, in my opinion. And here's something for a discussion for you guys at some point if you're interested. Who's the next retired up in the rafters at Rogers Place? Is it Kevin Lowe? He says he's indifferent. You know, they might have still won cups without him. Ryan Smith? Stefan says no. Is it McDavid? Is it Draisaitl? Is it Nugent Hopkins? Nuge has played 10 years so far, plays out the contract. That's 18 years, nothing flashy, but averages 0.7 a game and a player at 0.5 any day. He's definitely not a defensive liability, and he's a guy that does everything right. So he heads off with what will it take for one of those 4 to join the boys from the glory days? And he's asking about, you know, McDavid, Draisaitl, Nurse, or Nuge. Keep up the good work. Over to you, man. That's a really interesting question. I know I'm kind of popping this on you a little bit, but you know, we teased that we'd talk Hall of Fame a little bit, and that's the twist on this. You know, I think, you know, Kevin Lowe said that the only people that'll be hung in our arena are Hall of Famers, and that's who's up there right now. So we can either speak to this in terms of should there be a wall of honor, you know, like our Elks Football Club has, or you know, is it always just going to be the numbers in the rafters, and that'll only be Hall of Famers? So, you know, what do you think, man?
Yeah, well, when it comes to like Smitty, I've got lots of time for him. I love the way he played. I believe, and people could correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he's tied with Glenn Anderson for most power play goals in Edmonton Oilers history. So I think that's a pretty impressive little stat to be belonging to.
Is that true?
I believe it is. I believe the night against Vancouver, they kept putting him out there so that he would break that record, but he never did. And so I don't think Smitty gets into the Hockey Hall of Fame. I think he's borderline there just kind of because of his international career, not his NHL career, by always saying yes to Team Canada, although I don't think his, you know, stats in the games played are legendary. But I mean, Paul Henderson got into the Hockey Hall of Fame basically for a goal in the Summit Series. You know, his NHL career was not lights out by any means. So maybe there is a chance for Ryan to get in one day. I don't know. I think the criteria is kind of changing, and they don't look at guys that play in the NHL. They don't really look that heavily into their international career where they used to take that into more of an account. I just think that's kind of a lost art now. It's not only supposed to be the NHL, you know, Hockey Hall of Fame, it's the Hockey Hall of Fame, but so I don't know if Ryan ever gets in there. So if that's criteria is gonna hold, then I don't think Smitty's 94 goes up in the rafters or Rogers, although I would be fine with that. I think he dedicated, you know, a long career to Edmonton, and if he had it his way, it would have been from start to finish. But over 250 grand or a skybox, however you want to look at it. I didn't tell you this, but that's urban legend why he got dealt. And I don't think it's that much of a legend, but that's a story.
Exactly.
That's a story for another day. So, and you know, I think Kevin was inducted over the last year into the Hall of Fame. So I think it's a matter of time before his jersey does go up in Rogers. But I think the question with that is I don't think he'll let it go up before you know, he totally retires from the Oilers, and that might not be before Connor and Leon are done. So those two might go up together before Kevin's number 4 goes up. So I think that's where I'm at with that. In terms of a wall of honor, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. I've never, you know, you're hitting me with that out of the blue, and I've never really took time to think about it because I see the jerseys that are up there, and I know the history of a lot of the other guys. So for me, that's enough. Do we need more? Maybe. I mean, Mike Greer's shoulder could have a wall of honor, but
just a wall of honor for Rafi Torres suspensions.
Yeah.
I did have time to think about it, I guess. So, when it comes to Lowe, sure, and I agree with you. I'm not sure he, given the flack he's taken for old boys and his comments on tier 1 and 2 fans, and stuff about winning, and it'd be for him to go and hang his own banner up, I think is probably a bad look in any stretch that is gonna get some sort of polarizing feedback or so Smitty, I don't know, he's Captain Canada, but you don't get into the Hall of Fame for heart and soul and being able to take slap shots in the mouth. God love him anyways. So then if it's going to be Hall of Fame, it comes down to, I think Connor's, is it crazy to say Connor McDavid's a lock for the Hall of Fame? I'm not sure it's a stretch, to be honest. I think a guy like Connor McDavid, whether he wins a Stanley Cup or not, is a shoe-in for the Hall of Fame. I think for Nuge to do it on an 18-year tenure, that might be like at the top of the wall of honor with Smitty. I'm not sure he's going to make the Hockey Hall of Fame unless he starts racking up trophies, and that's personal and team. Draisaitl's got some personal trophies, so I think if Draisaitl could get another Hart or another Pearson and a cup or two, I think just what he's done for the game in Germany might be the push to get him in.
Leon will be a Hall of Famer. There's no question.
So I think I think Lowe might be the next one. And I think the organization would do it out of respect. So if they got to wait until the day that Kevin Lowe retires from the organization and then the next season they throw that up, I think they would do that out of respect for the history of Kevin Lowe. After that, we're probably in some sort of situation. I can see it in my dreams where they're hanging up Connor and Leon at the same time, like they did Henrik and Daniel, right. Because we've chalked up 2 or 3 cups between now and the time they retire 10, 15 years from now. So that's the way I see it. I have no ill will versus Kevin Lowe. I think he's a douchebag sometimes, but I'm an idiot in a lot of lifetimes. So, nobody's perfect. And I think his heart's always been in the right place. And I think he has said some stupid things, but every single one of the times it's come from a place of passion and come from a place of being an Oiler forever. And an Oiler till he dies. And, at the end of the day, why as Edmontonians are we going to brag on that?
There's on the chat there, it says, oh God, remember those screams Greer would let out when his shoulder would pop out mid-game? I'm pretty sure I was at one game where I think about 4 or 5 times he separated that thing. It was almost like Mel Gibson in Lethal Weapon. Just go to the boards, go to the boards and hammer the boards and pop it back in. Yep.
Yeah, that thing popped like a jack in the box. I was 7th row when Ethan Moreau fought. Who was it? Who did he fight behind the net? He was a captain then. Maybe I think he fought Jamal Mayers or something like that, and threw a punch with his right arm, and I heard him. Same thing, and he separated his shoulder in that throwing that punch. So yeah, painful thing. I've had a shoulder separation when I was in my 20s, and it still bugs me to this day.
From way down south, that's what you call those punches.
That's right. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Hockey Hall of Fames and the next banner to go up. I appreciate Stefan for that suggestion, because as soon as I read it, I thought that's a really good idea. I think that'd be fun to kind of go on, because it's something I've thought about.
Yeah, it's kind of cool to play when their career ends, where they're going to be kind of game, because Connor and Leon, I mean, the sky's the limit of what those guys can do. I'll tell you one thing, if getting both of those guys and kind of the other pieces that are around them right now, if they don't get this done, that's a major letdown, and probably one of the, there's a lot of disappointing things that have happened in professional sports, but if they can't get this done, in their time, in this game, especially in Edmonton, because I don't give a shit about any other team in the NHL. But that I don't even know where to rank that. I mean, that'll be a bigger travesty, I think, than trading Wayne, and that's as big a statement, I think, as I can make.
Yeah, I just didn't think about that for a second and let that absorb, and that's profound. That's the worst moment in Oilers history. So
yeah,
saying that we can waste Connor and Leon's careers would be the new worst moment in Oilers history. Eh?
Right.
I don't know if I can argue with you, man.
So let's not go there. Let's get this fucking thing
done.
Yeah,
let's open that curtain and not look for those clouds, because we got to get at least one cup out of this. I'd be shocked if we don't. Players like this just don't have a career without it. If it's Ovechkin at year 14, then maybe that's Ovechkin at year 14. I guess maybe we got to go get Barry Trotz. That's the key. But
maybe.
But I'd be shocked if it'd be a travesty to the game of hockey if those two guys go without a Stanley Cup to end their careers. That's a profound statement. Yeah, for sure. I like what you sent me today from you and Jeannie Beanie going back and forth on Twitter. That we're 1% of the people that she likes on Twitter, and I actually like your podcast. You two bickered like a married couple, and it's great. Well, Jeannie Beanie, I appreciate that. You love that you're listening, but Durst is not my type. Okay. Firstly, I'm terrified of Kim. I don't know if you've seen those blue eyes, but she might eat me alive. And as adorable as those dimples are that he's flashing right now, he's a Red Sox fan, and that's just never going to work between me and him. I really see us more like Statler and Waldorf. Like two old Muppets just arguing back and forth about stupid shit that doesn't make any sense. So I think I liken us more to that than being married, but whatever we sound like, it's working.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, Gene. And as far as an old married couple, I won't tell anybody. This is our secret, but we're looking for the Shannon Sharp, Skip Bayless kind of show here, and I'm not sure who's Shannon or who's Skip, but that's how we roll.
Yeah, it gets pretty boring if we're just going to agree on everything, and I don't. If we're going to be a WWE analogy, I don't mind being the heel while you're that good-looking face that breaks through the curtain with your manly stubble and your stoic ways. I can go fly off the handle and go grab a Snickers every once in a while.
My best attempt at the heel turn was, snapping at Slater Koekkoek for 2 years, but I think people saw through that earlier.
Yeah,
tonight.
The fans still cheered. So, yeah, it is what it is.
So I think we've rattled enough off the bar tonight. Any last words, and then I'll close with the old saying.
Yeah, man, we've probably pumped enough pucks straight into the pillows for 60 minutes, I'd say. Good effort out there. I love chatting and doing this with you. It's fun to be up on Oilers Live and part of the Heavy Hockey Network full time. Proud member. I know you are too. We talk about it a lot off the air. So this is going to be fun moving forward. Thanks for listening, everybody. And just keep your heads up. I think we're going to be okay this year.
Yeah, looking forward to October, see what this team's all about. So I guess Sunday night, 9:00, we'll do it all over again. So keep your sticks on the ice and keep reaching for the stars. Go Oilers, go.
Let's go Oilers. Not a bad goal out there, bud. Good team effort. Mucked it up in the corners pretty decent.